Hello and welcome to Lavender. My name is Ethan Cradle.
I'm Olivia Wright.
I'm Matthew Aparte.
I'm Xavier Dodd.
And this is the project we've been working on for the past semester. It is an application that implements a daily journal and questionnaire to log user habits and well-being. The application allows users to view their trends in their daily routines for habits that alter the mood. Ultimately, we want to correlate that kind of data with a data analytics section that will offer the user with a more in-depth approach to seeing what exactly they're doing in their daily life that might enable them to have a better daily routine or enable them to be happier in general. So a little bit about the project. This is the team that put it together. This is Xavier Dodd, Olivia Wright, Matthew Aparte, and myself, Ethan Cradle. And in case of technical difficulties or questions regarding Lavender, you're more than welcome. Let's start that over. And in case of technical difficulties or questions regarding Lavender, you're more than welcome to contact our team at this phone number or email Lavender support at this email address. Thank you and have a wonderful day.
Okay, so from the About page here, we can see a link to the login page and the register account page. So I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate successful and unsuccessful attempts for both of those. So I'm just going to start with one of our existing users and enter in an incorrect password. And we can see that the error message is displayed here. And then I'm going to go and create a new user here. And there is error checking that happens on this page as well. I'm just going to enter a bad email address here. There's no @ symbol here, so that error should be caught. And then we should be able to see the error message there as well. Great. And now I'm just going to enter in a valid user. So currently, after we press the submit button, all this information will be sent to the database, and then we can log in that user and be able to see their homepage. Great, so that was successful, and we can see the homepage here. And I can log in as this new user. No error message, and this comes to his homepage. And I'm going to log out and log back in as another one of our test users that has a little bit more data so that we can display the rest of the functionality.
As you can see, we've landed on Bob's homepage. You can see that it says welcome, his name, and it displays today's date, the day of the week. And one of the reasons that we have to use Bob right now for the demo is because we have something implemented called a calendar. And this calendar is really a mood calendar. When you go and click calendar, it generates a calendar of how you were feeling on that day and of the month. So if you see right now, we have some red, some yellow, and a black. What red means is that you weren't feeling that great, and it's actually the worst emotion. Yellow means it's a little bit better. Orange means that it's a pretty normal day. Green means that it's good, and blue would be the best. Right now, we were displaying just a lot of random dates, but it will fill it in for a different date when it gets input.
We're going to demo going through the questionnaire on an existing user. This user already has some pre-made questions in order to demonstrate what it's like to iterate through their list of questions. So first question, we kind of lock the user in two forms of responses, one being a yes or no question, and another being, three forms of responses. One being yes or no, the second being a date rate, a value range between 1 and 5, and the last one being a text box to kind of add free responses for the user to kind of express themselves how they feel fit. So this is an example of the first kind, which is a yes or no question, and we can see that. So for this one, I'll respond no, and we can proceed to the next one. And did you spend quality time with your family? Yes. And as the day by day goes, the user can choose to fill these out and track their own moods, track their own well-beings, and keep track of things in their life that they want to keep track of. The idea is that you create a survey for your users to kind of have some free expression and kind of collect data on themselves for them to use and analyze and be able to look at in order to use that to make adjustments on their own kind of behaviors. So this is an example of the range values. We limit the user to only use 1 through 5, just because it's a little easier and it's a pretty good scale to kind of take your pick on how you feel about a certain thing. So 3 being the medium, the median in that range. It's good. How'd you sleep last night? 5. So we have quite a few questions that this user has implemented previously. We can believe. Okay, and then this is the final question. So this is a journal entry. This user wanted to enter in a journal entry, and we can type some. We can just so we can keep track of which one of which entry is this current one. So when we press next on it, it should be directed to the home page, and here we are back at the home page. So now that we've entered in that set of data, we can go to the question history. So this is the question history page, and we can kind of see some of the entries that we just entered. These are some of the old entries, and here's the demo one that we entered a few minutes ago. And so now that's we can show text entries in that fashion, or we can go to how would you rate your mood today? It's this is some of the older entries that were entered, and we can see here the kind of data that the user has entered over time. And in order to see certain values, we can see here. This was entered the 13th of April. We have a value here entered the 24th of April, and the user can kind of take this moment to kind of analyze themselves with their entries in a kind of analytical fashion to allow for some behavior, for some changes in behavior. And along with that, we can go to did you spend time outdoors, which is a yes or no question, and we can kind of see a pie graph that represents the user's also behavior, and the user can kind of see how often they're acting on some of these questions, and we think that's important too. This is important information to the user in order to keep track of over time. And we can pop into another question here. And I mean, have you eaten well today? It only has one response, and it's yes. And so we can see that this user entered this question quite recently. It hasn't had some time to enter more. And that's kind of the idea with this question history kind of being this analytical tool for the users to be able to look at their own behavior and act on it. So along with this, of course, an important part of kind of this whole thing is being able to add your own question. So we can go here and add another question, and maybe the user wants to track perhaps how long were you on, right? Kind of asking their user, maybe the user wants to keep track of their daily computer usage, and we can do it on a scale, numerical, and submit that. And then when we go to our question history, we can see that the question's there, and we'll just do a quick iteration through the questionnaire to reflect that the question has been successfully added. just add some random stuff here. Oh, and here's the question: how long were you on the computer? As you can say 5 a lot of time. Projects due today, and a journal entry today. Let's see, today. Next, and submit it. And again, and this can be a daily activity, a daily ritual for the user, or twice a day. The user can kind of submit as much as they want. They have as much freedom with this tool to be able to come back and look at it. Okay, so this is one of our regular users, so we can just log out and show what a kind of fresh user will refer back to. His password, of course. And this is Tom. And here we can go to his question history, and we can see there's nothing in there. We can just add a quick question for Tom. How are you doing today? Maybe this would be a text response. And put that as a text response and submit it there. We can fill that out. And this gives Tom, as a user, unlimited accessibility. We're not kind of bogging down the user with unnecessary kind of our own questions. It's really a creative tool for the user to be used as little or as much as they want, and kind of adapt the questions. And adapt the questions to the answers and to kind of get the data they want out of it. So at the core of this application, I think that's really powerful. I think that's a really powerful benefit to what we built here. It was a good day. We can submit that and go to question history, and we can see it reflected here. And Tom can kind of maybe create journal entries for himself. We kind of see this text entry as a kind of a conduit for the user to kind of delve in maybe creative writing or self-bibliography, and that's kind of one of the reasons why we really push for this text-based entry, and along with the rest of the reasons, along with the rest of the responses, such as a numerical range was to kind of give an analytical point, and the yes or no was to kind of give like a Boolean response that the user may have just wanted to kind of view yes or no, and not kind of range on some of the questions. So we think this kind of covers all the types of questions that the user could possibly want to answer.
Okay, so just to get a little bit more into the technical details of our application, the web pages that you've seen so far were developed using Flask, which is a Python web development API. And these are just static HTML pages. We used CSS in order to style them and get the colors and images that we wanted. However, once we are in the application as an actual user, we'll be communicating with the database, and for that we used Firebase.
Thank you so much for demoing it with us.